Hey, it's Meggie Kay. So one of my goals when coming back to Canada was to travel more of Canada. And I'd like to think I've done a pretty good job so far. I mean, yeah, it was only 2 extra provinces, but there was also a pandemic and I did grad school and whatever. I think, I've done fairly well. And I notice as I'm trying to travel more of Canada, I've been running into these like little annoyances. So that is what I'm going to be talking about today. Just annoying things that tend to happen when traveling Canada. And before I actually get into it, I just want to say, I'm not super serious in this video and I'm not really mad and complaining and whatever. People tend to over-exaggerate very non-super serious videos. These are just little things that are annoying that you kind of have to deal with if you want to travel Canada. So if you are looking at traveling Canada, you might run into these things and should be aware of them. Probably the biggest problem and annoyance is access to public transportation. Canada is unfortunately a very car-dependent country. Within cities, it's okay. I'm currently in Toronto and I can get around the city pretty easily with public transit, but in smaller towns or getting between towns, it's really difficult. It also got even more difficult after the Greyhound bus went out of business. I believe there are a few companies trying to pick up the slack after Greyhound went out of business, but it's still very new and it's very underdeveloped for busing between cities. This past summer, I was trying to get up to Bruce County from Toronto for my friend's wedding. And I was trying to find a bus to do that. And it was really hard. And the only reason why I managed to do it was because she told me about the one bus company that will take the route up to Bruce County. And this bus only runs once a day each way, 3 times a week. That's it. And I was Googling how to get between these places and it didn't come up on Google. So I just had to take her word for it and book through this company and it all worked out fine. But if it wasn't for her being a local telling me that this company exists, I wouldn't know. So yeah, that's what I mean. There's little bits and pieces around, but they're not really well known and they're not easily found, at least in my opinion, when I have tried looking for these. Moving on from the buses, there is a train. Trains go across Canada, but they are expensive and also limited. Again, the tracks don't go places. Like I said, when I was trying to get to my friend's for her wedding, there's no train that goes that direction. It doesn't exist there. There are areas in Canada I would love to go and explore, but the train doesn't go there. Can't find buses there. And yeah, even if the train does go to these places, like I said with the public transit, once you get to that city, there might not be anything to take you around once you get there. So as you can see, Canada doesn't have a really great public transit or intercity system. And if you want to get around easily and explore some of the best things Canada has to offer, you kind of need a car. And I can drive, but I don't like to, and cars are really expensive. And that kind of leads me into my next point. It is expensive to travel Canada. This wasn't too bad back when the buses were around, but the train tickets are pretty much double the price of what the buses were, and cars are really expensive as well. The other thing that kind of adds to the expensiveness of traveling Canada is the fact that Canada's really big. So obviously to get around Canada, you're covering more space because of how big the country is. And so it kind of makes sense that this would cost more, you're covering more ground, but just because it makes sense doesn't make it not annoying, you know? There are a lot of really awesome things to do and see in Canada, but these things are also pretty spread out from each other. You often need to fly between places, and like I mentioned, public transit isn't great, so you probably have to rent a car once you're there. And Canada is starting to introduce more budget airlines, but from what I've looked at, if you have anything more than a personal item with you, they're basically the same price as like the standard airlines. So, I mean, maybe this might change in a few years when they become more like established, and you know, maybe it will eventually get to the point when I was in Southeast Asia taking budget airlines all around and they were still affordable even with checked luggage. But as of now, from what I have seen, traveling around within Canada adds up pretty quickly. Because Canada is so big and things are really spread out, it takes a lot of time to travel Canada. And again, just, it's understandable, but it's still annoying. I saw a TikTok a little while ago talking about how to get from Toronto to Kingston is the same as crossing the entire country of Ireland. And I looked it up and it is accurate. And if you've been to Canada, Ontario, you know Toronto to Kingston is nothing. Like, there's not a whole lot in that stretch. Like, it's not that far, but it's more than other countries. So yeah, if you want to see more of Canada than like a really tiny little region, you're going to have to consider how much time it takes to get places. This also makes it really hard to do like quick weekend trips. Like, it just doesn't happen. And it's kind of annoying. Like, there's so many things I want to do and see, but I have to factor in so much time just to get to these places. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. So yeah, that is the end of my ranting today. These are some of the annoying things that I have come across and have had to deal with while attempting to travel Canada a little bit more than I did before. And I do think this is also a lot of the reasons why you find so many Canadians who travel the world and go abroad and they've seen so many things, but haven't seen a whole lot of their own country. I do want to say, like, I think Canada's a great country and I think it's beautiful and there's so much to do and see in it, but it's not the easiest country to travel and to get around. So yeah, annoyances. And you kind of just have to deal and work through it. But yeah, that is it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe because I'll be back with another one soon.